Well, coming off their best run of baseball in a long time, the Cardinals have swept the Cubs over the weekend. Obviously, took an opening series loss to the Reds today. But we want to talk in this episode, are the Cardinals now officially contenders? Are they pretenders? Somewhere in between. Can we make a assumption? Can we make a statement about this team finally on the positive side? We've been negative a lot lately, but things have been trending up. We'll talk about all this on this episode of Deal on the Cards. Well, this is another episode of Deal on the Cards. Josh, one of your hosts here, and Andrew as well. Sandy isn't with us today, but we are, I mean, at the very least, we're excited to talk about some Cardinal baseball. I'm wearing that famous Sonny Gray hat from last week. I debuted it today. I saw him wearing it post game. I was like, I have to have that. And it's sold out. So Cardinal fans really like that. But what we also really like, and like even more, is the team is actually like playing good right now. Like, even if you don't believe that this is who they are playing like one of the best teams in baseball right now, which is okay, if it's holding Mo's water to say winning 10 out of your last 13 is one of the best teams in baseball at this moment, playing like, I don't know what it is, whatever. But all this to say, if this is your first time tuning in, we'd love if you subscribe. We post multiple episodes a week of Cardinals content. We do some other fun views as well. We also have a Discord channel you can find out more about on the website version of YouTube. Once you subscribe, there's a membership program there. You can follow us on Twitter and Twitter, Instagram as well. But Andrew, we got to start off by talking about: is it like, can we officially say the Cardinals are back and they're contenders? Are you totally out on the team still? Are you somewhere in between? I put up a poll on Twitter today. I'm gonna find what the results are so far. And again, this is a small percentage of the Cardinals fan base, right? Like even the biggest Twitter polls out there, it's not every fan in the world is voting on this. But I had about 700 votes come through, and I put in 4 categories. Are you a believer? Do you need to see more? And if you're in the chat right now or you're watching this later, let us know. Are you one of these 4 categories? Are you a believer in what the Cardinals are doing, that they're finally back, they're a good team? Do you still need to see more? Are you doubtful? So you're like, yeah, maybe, but probably not. Or you completely out. And 54% of people, so this is by far the most, said they need to see a little bit more, but they're like, I think they're there, but we need to see a little bit more. 27% said they're believers, and only 19% of people were kind of out or out on them. 2% of people said they're completely out. Still 17% said they're still doubtful. So I was actually kind of impressed that there was way more on the positive side. But Andrew, where are you at with this team right now?
I mean, mathematically, they're one game back of a playoff spot because the Cubs lost again tonight. The Brewers don't seem to lose games, so that's a little frustrating. But I mean, eventually, I don't know, right? We all curse someone at the start of the season. You curse the Brewers. I cursed a certain Cubs pitcher that we didn't get to face this week. But mathematically, we're one game back of a playoff spot. The season ended tomorrow. We'd not be in the playoffs, but if we played a little bit better throughout the next couple of weeks, then we have a pretty good shot. Am I completely sold that the team is going to be continuing this throughout the rest of the season? I don't know. You sweep the Orioles, that's good. You sweep the Cubs, but that's a little disingenuous because one of those games got rained out. You still haven't played it yet. And I'm not really sure. We lost the game to the Reds today, missed a lot of opportunities again. The bullpen was kind of thin, so I don't really blame the team for that loss. A couple of really bad errors later on. But if you only score 1 run, it's kind of just on the hitting again. It's kind of the same story. But I don't know. I'll see how this team plays the rest of the way against the Phillies, the last 2 games against the Reds. And I think Houston coming up, who are playing better than they were to start the season, which is a little bit scary. But I'm not out on the team. I'm not fully bought back in. Again, there's like 4 other teams that are around where we are in the standings right now for the last wild card spot. The Cubs, we took them down a notch this week. The Giants and the Padres, I think, are tied for that last spot right now. I haven't followed the games that they've played later today. And then like there's some other teams in the mix: the Diamondbacks, the Nationals, the Pirates might even find themselves back in the mix. But also that first wild card spot with the Braves is kind of opening up, right? Because they've suffered a lot of injuries. I wouldn't be shocked if the Cardinals made a play for even that spot. I don't think the Braves will miss the playoffs, but I don't think that they're going to be one of the World Series favorites like they were coming into the season with Strider and Acuna fully healthy. It sucks for them. It sucks for baseball, but that's just how it is right now. So I'm not sure. I need to see a little bit more, but it definitely trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm bought back in. I'm ready for this team to be or not. I mean, I've been ready. I want them to be good, but I'm ready in terms of this team, believing that it's a playoff team. Part of that's because we pointed out they're only a game and a half out of the wild card right now. That's how weak this National League race is. And it's not just a unique thing to this year. This is kind of what happens when you've added the third wild card in. Last year, the Diamondbacks barely snuck in. It's interesting how we play revisionist history. We don't like think about how teams are perceived throughout an entire year. The Diamondbacks started the season super hot last year, and people were like, oh, can they challenge the Dodgers for the playoffs? Then they were ice cold in the summer. They fell apart. They were like, I think they had like August and July. They were awful. And then they made a little of a run at the end of September. They won 83 games or something like that. And they made the playoffs. Also, Jacob, thanks for the compliment about the hat. Yeah, I love this hat too. Um, but they snuck into the playoffs and then they made noise. And when they made the playoffs, no one really expected them to do anything. They beat a super flawed Dodgers team that had no pitching left because they had a bajillion injuries. And then they had I mean, not taking anything away from the Diamondbacks, but they beat the Phillies, which was awesome. Anyways, my point is it's not the bar to get into the playoffs is pretty low. But I do think, like you said, Andrew, the Cardinals could push for the second wild card. First wild card, I don't know. Even with that Acuna injury, I'm still a believer in the Braves. Like they had a historic offense last year, and they did add Chris Sale, who's been awesome. Their rotation's been really good. Honestly, they're in a situation like the Cardinals where they just kind of need to add a fifth starter, which isn't the hardest thing in the world to do. The Cardinals need more than that, but like they both need a fifth starter. I believe that Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Ozzy Albies, all those guys will hit at some point. But I think it's totally conceivable to see the Cardinals get a wild card spot at this point, and with the way they're playing. And we'll talk more about why I think this is sustainable. Even though I don't think we'll talk about the offense numbers, what they're doing right now is just top of the league. I don't think they'll be that good, but it shows what they can do now. But I also think like I think at some point the Brewers are gonna fall back down to earth a little bit. Maybe at some point I'll just have to totally buy in and believe that they're this good. I just don't. I don't think the offensive talent is actually that good. And their pitching low, like I think their pitching is a lot more fragile than the Cardinals is. They do have reinforcements though, but the base they were working with, I was already like you looked at them going into the season on Fangraphs, and it's like, wow, this is the rotation the Brewers have. This is unfounded. But they will get Devin Williams back at some point. So there's different ways to look at it from the Brewers side. But for the Cardinals specifically, the thing we've been talking about for months now, it feels like months now, but it's like the first 6 weeks of the year. So when is this offense gonna freaking hit? Like, holy cow. And we can get into, and I've been saying it with you guys before. I don't fully remember where you and Sandy stood on about the thing you're most concerned about. The thing I continue to be concerned about was, hey, I think the offense is going to come around, but like, what will the pitching look like when the offense finally comes around? And I continue to think that the guys that they want to rely on in this rotation, which I think the only three that you're or 3 to 4 that you're like they're for sure going to be in the rotation is Gray, Gibson, Michaelis, and Lynn. Lynn just went 6 innings today. I thought he pitched pretty well. The errors really killed him. And it's Cincinnati, too. That's a tough ballpark to pitch in. Gray's been awesome. Kyle Gibson's been a quality starts machine. I'm really not a believer in Miles Michaelis, but he has been better lately and is at least giving you those innings. The Cardinals, I don't, for the life of me, I don't understand how they're handling the fifth starter spot right now. That part makes no sense. But we've seen last year they sold, so they didn't do it. But last 3 or 4 years of contention, they are not afraid to go out there and get that fourth or fifth starter for the rotation. So come July, I think they can patch that. I think it's more of a conversation. Can they get to that point? And then also, like, are they going to experience more injuries? Can young guys from AAA finally be ready by then? Will they go out and make a move on the fringes? But I'm liking what the rotation looks like right now in terms of being good enough. The bullpen, the overusage at this point, I'm kind of like, okay, you need to figure out ways to not use them as much. But it's the offense that's finally coming around a little bit. Last 15 days, they're sixth in runs scored, fourth in batting average, third in OBP, sixth in slugs, sixth in OPS. They were bottom three for the first 6 months of the year, or 6 weeks of the year. So they turn it around, and Goldie over the stretch has an 868 OPS, 5 home runs. He's turned it back on. I like well, here, I've been trying to find this image real quick. Goldschmidt's cooking right now, okay? Goldie's back. This is from Cardinals Gifts on Twitter. Goldie is back. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be a nine. I'm not saying he's gonna be a 900 OPS guy the rest of the year, but he was just bad for a while. And I'm kind of convinced he's not going to be like washed Goldschmidt anymore the rest of this year. He might have some stretches like that, but he's good enough to compete. And then you think about, okay, they get Wilson Contreras back in this lineup. I like the idea of no order here, but you've got Brendan Donovan, Lars Newbar, Paul Goldschmidt, Wilson Contreras, Nolan Gorman, Alec Burleson. That's 6 hitters I really believe in right now. You've also got Ivan Herrera in that mix. Oh, Mason Wynn. I forgot about him too. I can go 7, 8 hitters deep right now that I feel really good about. I didn't even mention Nolan Arenado. Didn't mention Michael Ciana's giving you something. I didn't mention Jordan Walker if he comes back, Tommy Edman. This lineup is finally showing the depth that made me really excited about it. So for all these reasons, I think they're ready to be a playoff team again, and it's only a matter of I think their margin for error, we talked about this offseason, is kind of thin. So like Sonny Gray goes down, this is a different conversation. To multiple starters, like if Lynn and Gibson go down, this is a different conversation. If the bullpen starts to implode, it's a different conversation. But how they're constructed right now, even knowing the offense has come back down to earth a little bit, I'm believing. Andrew, for you, what do you need to see, and how long do you need to see it for to be like, okay, I'm officially bought back in? Because I get the reasons to be hesitant.
But yeah, Paul Goldschmidt looked great this week. A couple homers or 3 homers in the last 24 hours, which is great. That's what we want to see out of him. I want to see that continue. 900 OPS. Honestly, that's kind of what we expect out of him, right? That's what he was close to last season. Maybe like 850 for the rest of the way would be great. Nolan Arenado needs to play better, right? We've been saying that all season. There have been stretches where it's like, oh, he's getting hot, but he hasn't put that together yet. And it's a little late to be like, oh, he's going to do it. Right now, I'm not fully sold that he's going to do it. He's either hurt or he's not going to do it ever. He's not going to be the same ever again, right? Because he's up there, getting up there in age. And we say when he gets hot, he gets really hot. And I want to see that for like a month, right? Maybe not like a month, but like 3 weeks of just scorching hot Nolan Arenado carrying the offense, not to the point where we move him down in the lineup like we did today. That's just not what we want to see. And then guys like Mason Wynn, Alec Burleson need to keep playing at the level that they're playing. It's been great to watch those guys put it together. Lars Newbar needs to be a little bit better. Actually, no complaints really from him or Gorman. Gorman's been getting on base. He's been hitting the ball a little bit harder. I feel like if we could get a scorching hot stretch from Gorman as well, that would be great. And just save the bullpen, right? The bullpen has looked shaky the last couple of games. We won both games against Chicago, but both of those could have gone either way in the 9th inning with Helsley. Looked pretty bad. And I don't think that's because he's like hurt or he's going to fall off or anything. I think they're just working him too hard, right? We've been saying this at some point, like you use JoJo Kittredge and Helsley in every single win. They're going to fall off at some point. And whether that's getting Keenan Middleton back in the next week or so, whether that's Giovanni Gallegos miraculously finding it after coming back from the IL, or just getting more runs from the rest of the offense. So you don't have to use those high leverage guys every single day. I think those two go hand in hand. And if one falls, so is the other, right? Like if the offense stops producing, then the bullpen's going to be overworked again, and then the bullpen's going to fall apart. And it's not fully sustainable way of winning games, and just need to score, like put up 10 tomorrow against the Reds. Like this offense is due, right? I think they've only put up 10 like once or twice this year. Just do that. Get some good innings from Gibson, and then just save the bullpen for the stretch, because Helsley already leads the league in saves, and that's fine. But like I think for a winning ball club, you want someone who leads the league in like every category statistically except for saves, right? Because if you're getting a lot of saves, that means you're playing a lot of close games, and you want to win games big. And that's what we're not being able to do right now. Our run differential is still terrible. Get that up there. Right now, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, there's definitely a need. Like we talked about early in the year, and at that point in the middle of April, end of April, it's like it's not the biggest deal in the world that they continue to use the 3 of them this much, but it can't keep going like this all year. I think we're starting to hit the point where you're going to start to see the cracks. And I think sometimes it's a little difficult on a manager like Ali or any manager, Mike Schill even too. We give him crap about his bullpen usage. But like when you get into a game and you don't use one of the big three in that spot and they give up runs, then us as fans, I'm not saying like I'm not critiquing you, but I'm just like they're kind of he's kind of in an impossible situation where it's like if he goes to Leahy there, because he's like, hey, I know JoJo's available, but I'd like to not overuse him. And then Leahy blows the game. Everyone's like, why didn't you go to JoJo, you idiot? But then if he goes to JoJo, then
No, I'm not saying that at
oh
all. Like,
no, I know. I'm not saying you are. I'm saying he's in a difficult situation right now because of how the bullpen's playing. Where it's like if he uses JoJo though, then we're on here saying, hey, you got to stop using him. So but to your point, the reason is to keep using him is because sometimes the rotation is not going deep enough into the game, especially that fifth starter spot. Some Sonny Gray last few starts hasn't gone deep. Whoa, breaking
Angel
news!
Hernandez is retired.
Wait, the umpire?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What is happening?
I don't
Is he
know.
retired? Oh my
He's
god.
gone.
Wow.
This is great.
Well, okay. Well, before I celebrate too much, is it like health reasons or something? Because this seems really random, middle of the year.
I don't know. They just said Angel Hernandez is retiring. Maybe like I mean they weren't giving him like
Maybe it's the end of the
a
year.
lot of games to begin with.
We'll see. Wow.
It's for Bob Nightingale. So like I don't know. He just decided to quit, which is great. Like that's fun.
Not the news I was expecting tonight. Wow. Okay. Well, Andrew's got the umpire breaking news for us these days. But so anyways, I'm saying that is more of like to your point, the offense needs to get going, score more runs. They don't use them as much. But I also think it's probably time, especially now that they've gotten back into the race, that you could you could just as easily fall out of it again, but it's probably time to start using Libby in some bigger spots. It's probably time to start using also paranormal activity over on Andrew's side right now. Oh no, is Andrew gone? Oh no, what just happened? Okay, that's freaky. I think he's fine. I think he's just fixing the light. But my point is, sorry, this is wild right now. If you're listening on audio, Andrew just disappeared. So if you're watching on this, it's probably like, what the heck is happening? But promise, shows on the road still. But my point I was going to make there is the offense needs to get going, so they don't use bullpen as much. But you could start using Liberatore in bigger spots. I think Ryan Fernandez has looked pretty good in some big spots. Maybe use that. They were hoping Keenan Middleton was going to be back by this coming week, but he had some soreness after throwing a back-to-back in his forearm, which is what he's been dealing with as an injury. So you got to hope he comes back soon, because that would help a ton to have a fifth guy or a fourth guy in that mix of the big four now instead of it being a big three. And then also Gio is going to go on a rehab assignment soon too. And I know he did not look good before, but if he gets that velocity back, which is part of the reason they put him on the IL, you could see some more arms that mix. But then again, getting Libby back, it's always hard to predict bullpen health. But if you get Keenan Middleton, Gio, and Libby, you move Libby back to the bullpen, you've got those other two in there. You've got 6 guys in there that you feel good about, which would help a lot. And then you can almost have like 3 lines where give me any mix of the 3 of them each day. That'd feel pretty good. So you really do need to start seeing that soon too. And I think that Andrew brings up a good point that the bullpens looked good this year, but the last few games have been a little bit leaky. I think the thing with Ryan Helsley, which was nice last few games, is I know he gave up that home run to Ian Happ, but for the most part, it's been soft contact, and you kind of live with singles as a closer. It's not going to do a lot of damage to you. You don't want walks. It's a free base. Andrew's back. And it was very ironic that I said, right when I said paranormal activity, don't disappear, and then you just disappeared. I was like, oh no. So
yeah, no, I was just fixing the lights, but I just found a new spot, so we're fine.
Wow, way to freak us all out. So yeah, and then I think so. And this is what I wanted to ask you, because you brought up a point about it, and I would love to hear from the chat too, or if you're watching this later, let us know in the comments. Andrew, let's say Goldie is an 820 OPS guy the rest of the way. Maybe he doesn't finish with that, but like from this week on, the rest of the year, he finishes with an 820 OPS. And you've got the kind of offense that you're getting from maybe not. I mean, Lars Nootbaar has been one of the best hitters in baseball the last 2 weeks, but like you've got like a real like the kind of you get the production we were expecting from Nootbaar, from Gorman, from Burleson how Burleson's playing now. Wynn's hitting well. You got all these other guys hitting well. You get Wilson Contreras back. Do they actually need Nolan Arenado to be Nolan Arenado if all these other components are firing, in your opinion?
I mean, you're paying him what, like $35 million to do it, so I would hope that he is, right.
But like, do they need it?
I think I think you do to be like a top unit in all of baseball. Because if you have that much sunk into a guy that's not really going to produce, and like defensively too, like he had a really good start to the year, but he's made a lot of really weird like plays in the last week where it's like I don't know if Prime Nolan Arenado would have made like those miscues, right? I don't know, he probably wouldn't, but uh I mean, you get Wilson Contreras back, and you have that plus bat, but like I really do think that this team will be at its best, and like you could probably make the playoffs, but I think we're all a little bit tired as Cardinal fans of making the playoffs and just losing in the first round, which is kind of not fun. So I feel like to like make a real run, like win the first round against like whoever, like the Brewers or the Giants or whoever you're gonna end up facing in the first round of the wild card. I feel like you do need him to be at his best. Um, I don't think it's necessary to like get into the playoffs, but again, like we need to do more than this year, I think, to have a successful season. But I don't know. Like, I guess your question is to get back into contention. So no, I don't think you need him to be like fully right. I think you need him to be over 700 OPS guy, which he hasn't been up to this point. You need him to have hit more than like what 3 home runs at this point. He's on pace for like 15 home runs this season. Like that's not what you expect from someone like that at all. And you're not going to replace that production with Burleson or Wynn or whoever you are going to bring up, right? Because Mason Wynn's not going to give you those power numbers. Burleson hasn't hit a lot of homers yet. So you need that from somewhere, and I don't think you're going to get that from anyone who's currently on the roster.
What if I told you, like, so I think Wilson Contreras is replacing that Goldschmidt production, and
Well,
Wilson
where is he?
Contreras is, what was that?
Where is he right now? He's hurt. Like
Yeah,
you're not
that's
getting.
true. But I'm saying if we, I mean, obviously a lot of this stuff can change, but if Wilson
Mhm.
Contreras, if this is the version of him we have this year, I I think he can replace Goldschmidt's bat. Sorry, I'm pulling up the 2022 Cardinals too because I have a comparison I want to make too, because I don't think it's as simple as like when the Cardinals were at their best a few years ago, 2022, they had a big three of hitters, but the rest of the
Yeah.
lineup wasn't really all that good. Um, had a good year from rookie or from Brendan Donovan. They had a good second half from Lars Nootbaar, but in general, their offense, like they had basically no production from the catcher spot. Tom Yedman was a league average hitter. Harrison Bader was a below league average hitter. And Tyler O'Neill was hurt most of the year. So he was a below league average hitter when he played too. Dylan Carlson filled in below league average hitter. He's just slightly below league average. So what I'm saying here is what you're replacing is you're giving Nolan Arenado's second big bat. And again, this is Paul Goldschmidt's it being a big bat. But you're the Goldschmidt, Wilson Contreras, you're like two big right-handed bats. Then you've got Large Nootbaar playing like a not an all-star, but like a really good player. Same with Brendan Donovan, same with Nolan Gorman. That's a big difference from the year before. So that's 5 bats I named right there. 2 elite, 3 really good. Then you got Alec Burleson who's playing like a really good bat. You got Mason Wynn who's playing. I don't think he's gonna be a 120 WRC plus guy the rest of the way, but if he's above league average, that's 7. And then sorry, where am I blanking on the player still? Oh, Nolan Arenado, like okay, if he's below league average or right at league average, okay. And then same with Michael Ciani, you have a deeper lineup this time around, which I think is a part of the reason you could say, okay, well, it's just the lineup is built differently. Another thing too, the Cardinals in recent years, even 2022, lacked the ability to have impactful left-handed bats in their lineup. And I don't think people talk enough about that because if you look at the regular season and postseason, in the regular season, right-handed bats are a little bit more productive since 2021 than left-handed bats. But in the postseason, left-handed bats, they actually are better in the postseason than they are in the regular season, but right-handed bats drop off almost 100 OPS points. And then for the Cardinals, their right-handed bats dropped off like 200 OPS points, and then their left-handed bats until in the postseason since 2021, so it's just the 2021 and 2022 postseasons, dropped 400 points. So they were down to 300 OPS. Now, when you go into a postseason series, you have Nolan Gorman, Alec Burleson, Brendan Donovan, and Large Nootbaar, who can all be in your lineup as impactful left-handed bats. And the Cardinals, 2022, they didn't have an impactful left-handed bat. They had Brendan Donovan and Large Nootbaar, but they were rookies. And by October, they weren't producing at that level. I think that's a game changer too for this lineup. That now, in the aggregate, before like you just didn't have the kind of talent to pick up the slack when stars were not playing well. Now I think you do have two legit star bats in Wilson Contreras and Paul Goldschmidt, and maybe Nolan Arenado turns it on at some point in the year. But that's where I think it's not essential. Like I totally agree with you. It's a really bad situation to have that much money sunk into Paul Goldschmidt and have him not produce. But I don't think this means this team can't produce offensively without him because of the talent they have around him. So again, I could see your point with that, and it will be remaining to be seen because at the same time, we haven't seen a full season of Paul. Or geez, we have seen a full season of Paul Goldschmidt before. We haven't seen a full season of Brendan Donovan, Lars Nootbaar, Nolan Gorman, Alec Burleson putting together these kind of numbers. So to ask them to do that, we haven't seen that yet. We've seen stretches, haven't seen the full thing yet. But I just like the collection of depth there, and now they're kind of producing. So rotation wise, it looks hopefully Wednesday we're about to see Andre Palante make another start. Like, are you at a point now where you'd like to see Palante or one of the AAA guys get a chance? Or, I mean, do they sign Brad Keller? Do they have to make a trade soon in your eyes? What do you do with that fifth starter spot?
I mean, Liberatore pitched today, so I don't think he'll get the Wednesday start, which is good. I didn't want to see him get another opportunity to start, at least to this point, because his starts have not looked good really ever in his Cardinals career. And he's looked really good as a reliever. So at least for this year, I would like to see him as a reliever, and he's not fully built up as a starter. I don't know why. You're giving the ball to him when, like, a lot of the times when you go to Liberatore, you need innings because you used your bullpen the day before. And it's like, okay, well, have fun. And then he goes like 3 or 4 innings, and then you need to use your long men. So I think Palante's built up. I'd like to see him at least get a chance. I think it'll be better than anything we could get from Liberatore. At least give it a try, right? Because the upside is still there. You know, you're not gonna, like, Liberatore's gotten how many starts in the Cardinals uniform, and it's not really gone well for him so far. I don't think, has he recorded a quality start in the Cardinals uniform? I don't think he has, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. I would like to see to swing a trade
He did in that race. Wait, you talking about Palante or Liberatore as a quality start?
Liberatore.
He did. He had that Rays start. We went 8 innings.
Okay, yeah.
But it's been few and far between.
Right. So he doesn't go long very often, and you're playing in a small ballpark, a Great American. It's just not a great mix. So Palante keeps the ball on the ground. I feel like we've seen a couple solid starts from him in AAA. I would prefer that you go out there and sign somebody, right? Like, there's guys available that are good and that you can go sign or trade for. The Marlins already moved off Luis Ariz in April, right? So, like, there's no, like, the trade deadline is like kind of a guideline. Like, you trade before then, but like you can trade like way before then, right? In May.
Yeah,
like,
it just generates action.
Yeah, so just be aggressive. Find a trade partner to get that fifth starter. Move Matz to the bullpen. If you want to use him in the playoffs, like, try to start him or whatever. Maybe fine, but like, I would say if you can go out and land somebody who's cheap, somebody maybe not like that, maybe at the deadline still add another top starter, but someone like even a J Happ, John Lester, Wade LeBlanc type pitcher, just to hold on to that spot, give your team a chance to win every fifth day instead of like having a Liberatore who's will give you a chance to win, but also will not give you length, right? Go get a guy that can give you length. Go get like a Jordan Lyles or even Rich Hill is still out there looking for a job. Like, there's somebody out there that you can go get, and it's not going to cost you really anything, right? So I think that's probably the best play. I don't know how I feel. Like, if Palante takes the opportunity and runs with it, that's great. But he didn't look great in his relief outings. I don't know if that's going to translate to good outings as a starter. So you can't keep sitting on your hands and being like, I don't know who's going to start on Wednesday. Is that Greinke too? I think he has beef with the Cardinals organization, so I don't think that'll happen, unfortunately. But that would be fun. He's right in the age range for Mo, so can go out and get something like that.
Yeah, thanks to Joseph in the chat, because I said Brad Keller, but I meant to say Brad Keller types. Brad Keller signed with the Red Sox yesterday, but when he was on waivers, it made a lot of sense. And part of the reason I like him over a Greinke or these other guys is Brad Keller's been pitching, so you don't have to build him up. And get him a couple rehab, like AAA starts or something to figure it out. Like he's ready to plug and play, which they need right now. And also too, like you pick up Brad Keller and you DFA Chris Roycroft, which I guess they just did that. So like Leahy, whoever you need DFA, and you pick him up for a couple weeks, and that's all you need him for. Then you DFA him again, you move on. Like I don't know, it's just frustrating they don't make a move like that. I do think from the 5th starter spot, there'll probably be a lot of options out there. Someone threw out, I think it was Joseph again, Austin Gomber. Like, I mean, you can honestly, he's been great for the Rockies this year. So maybe you go back and
Nolan
get
Arenado,
Gomber.
maybe.
That would be hilarious
Maybe.
if that happened. I mean, Eric Fetty from the White Sox, any of those
James Nail
Marlins
from the
starters,
KBO.
James Nail. Oh my gosh. There'll be fifth starters or something that are always available at the deadline. The question will be like, what would be an ideal scenario is that either they add a 5th starter and a frontline starter, so they go get that Jesus Luzardo type, or they just get Jesus Luzardo, and then you move Michaelis down to that 5th starter spot, and you have Sonny Gray, Jesus Luzardo, Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, Miles Michaelis. Like, hey, you're cooking with a little bit of gas there. Like, hey, sure, does it fall off a little bit at the back end? Sure, but when you get to a postseason, like Kyle Gibson is your game 3 starter right now. Actually, don't mind that. And Lance Lynn, even if he has to pitch a game, like you can probably get 4 quality innings out of him in a
He was
postseason game and
Dodgers
turn it over
game
to the
3
bullpen.
starter last year. So
Yeah, which that was not necessarily a good space to be in for the Dodgers, but with how he's pitching this year, it's like okay, like you could do it. So, yeah, I think it's inexcusable that they haven't done something like that. If they go to Palante, though, I will. That's the thing. At the very least, go to Palante or go to Zach Thompson, whoever it is, because at the very worst, you're getting a. Oh, sorry, I did not mean to hit my mic. You're getting a lateral move from what you're getting from Liberatore. Like you're probably not getting the worst production from those guys out of the rotation, but then you get Liberatore back in the bullpen. With Liberatore in the rotation, I know other people made this point, so I'm not original with this, but you're making your bullpen and your rotation worse by putting Liberatore into it. Keep your bullpen a strength. Keep the depth there. Even if it's just a guy, you're like, well, he might give up 4 runs in 5 innings. It's like, hey, that's what Liberatore was going to do, but now you have a really good Liberatore out of the bullpen. I've seen the Tin Can stuff, and I'm not a big fan of that idea because I would much rather have him continue to be on this development plan he's going on. It's been working. I want him ready for mid 2025, not jeopardizing that. Now, I mean, if they think he's ready and they think he can produce, like go for it. But I also don't always trust their judgment on that. But maybe you see Gordon Graceffo. He's pitched pretty well recently. Michael McGreevy had a random really good start, but I'm not really sold on that. They've got some guys who can throw out there. So I'd rather them just start getting creative with it, throwing guys up there and seeing what happens and to keep running Matthew Liberatore out there. But it seems like they're finally done with that experiment. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. So Andrew, rest of this Red series. I know we've got I guess we'll talk again probably by the end of the Red series, but what are you hoping to see from this? I mean, you have a chance to really move up in the I know the Reds are below you in the standings right now, but the Cubs have been struggling. You could potentially move up in a second by the end of the week in the NL Central, move into a wild card spot. Is there any way that by the end of this week this team can convince you they're a contender, or do you think it's going to take a little bit more time than that?
I mean, the Reds have looked terrible this season. They just swept the Dodgers. I mean, I've been watching the Dodgers. They don't look good right now. So, like, it's not really like, oh, the Reds are back. It's just like, no, the Dodgers were just playing really poorly for a stretch. And, like, when those guys aren't hitting, then they're not hitting. And the Reds have the pitching to shut them down and score a couple runs and sweep them. So if we win the last 2 games, I won't be fully sold. If we win 2 out of 3 against the Phillies, and we win them in like semi-convincing fashion, like we score runs off Wheeler, they're not like cheap wins, like you know what I mean, like extra innings, like you score somehow, like on a cheesy like fly ball single or something, like things that are like, oh, we hit the ball really well off Zach Wheeler, like Arenado's hitting better. And the pitching looks good against that lineup, then yeah, I'll probably be bought back in by the end of the Phillies series if we win the Red series and then we win the Phillies series. But like, I don't know. I think it's possible that like we can be built back into like a playoff spot and still not feel secure by the end of the week, right? Like we could have one of those playoff spots that we want, and we're still like, I don't know how well this team is going to do. I don't know if this team's going to make the playoffs. I don't know if this team's going to make a run in the playoffs. But I mean, I feel better than I did like a week ago when we were like 5 games out, and like it's better. It looks more promising. It's what we expected this team to see from this team, but like we've dug ourselves such a big hole that it's a little bit tough to convince ourselves that it's going to be anything other than another disappointing year so far.
Yeah. Also, I think David's made a good point in the chat. He compared, no, hear me out saying I'm not going to go as far as say that they're the Dallas Mavericks of MLB right now, because I would say they're well on their way to the World Series right now. But like David makes a point about in sports, you see teams start out really slow and then get hot as the season goes on. And you see the opposite. Last year, the Reds, remember, everyone was like, the Reds, they're here, they're awesome. Missed playoffs. Everyone's like, they're in runaway at the division, LA De La Cruz. And it's like, okay, that didn't work. And then Pirates started out the year really hot, didn't work out. The Cubs had a really hot stretch midway through the year, fell off. And then you have teams like the Nationals that were horrible at the beginning of the year, and then they made the playoffs, won the World Series. You have the Diamondbacks who were hot, cold, hot, like seasonal. And so you have time for this Cardinals team to continue to build up, but you also have time for this team to fall back into the crapper, because last year in the middle of May, they caught fire and they went 11-3, and then they fell apart the rest of the year again. So we'll see. And I think the problem with how the Cardinals have built their team, and we've talked about this over and over again, is a team like the Dodgers, when they have a ton of injuries and a ton of things go wrong, they still have enough talent to figure it out. They might not be a 120 win team anymore, but they're still at least a 98 win team. Cardinals, it's like, well, when everything goes right, you can win 90 games, or when you add to this team also and things overachieve, you can win 90 games. But when things are kind of average, you win low 80s, and when things fall apart, you're in the 70s win. So I think that's kind of what they've set themselves up for potentially. Again, I don't know. I'm seeing someone in here call me delusional. I don't know what part you're thinking is delusional here, because I'm not calling the Cardinals a 90
I'll
win
help
team
you
right
out.
now.
I'll help you out.
I don't think the team is capable of winning a playoff series right now, even with how they're playing. Like, they would probably need another really good starter, and they do need they need for Wilson Contreras back. They need a lot of things to happen. Maybe they can win a playoff series against like a bad division winner. So like, well, I guess they play against the Brewers or something. Maybe they can beat them in 3 games. I don't know. Like, we're talking about making the playoffs right now. I think like I don't know if anyone, like, I want them to be a World Series contender, but I just don't see that happening. So but if you think that's wild, then I don't know if you've been watching this team lately, because they've been playing really good baseball. So you don't have to believe they're sustainable, but it's in the range of outcomes now to be a playoff team. That's not delusional. You don't have to believe it, but it's not delusional. A couple things on here. Edmund comeback, who knows? People, yeah, feels like they get, I don't know. I don't know what's up with Edmund. Newt Bar doesn't seem like they're that concerned about him, but again, they say they're not concerned about guys like sometimes in terms of the Edmund situation. But Newt Bar seems like they've just been being precautious with. Sonny Gray got
This
pulled from the
feels like
start
I won't lie. This feels like O'Neill.
with Newt
Like
Bar.
this situation. Like, I mean, like it just like reminds me of times like O'Neill would be like, "Oh, we scratched him." It's like, "Oh, he's no big deal."
Oh,
And then tomorrow's like, "Oh, we scratched him again." "Oh, it's no big deal." And then we're just gonna be like, "Oh, he's on the IL." I'm not saying that's what's gonna happen this time, but like it feels like things that like I don't fully trust this organization to be like, "Oh yeah, no, they're okay," and then for them to
yeah.
actually be okay.
True.
It's happened before where it's like, "Yeah, we're scratching O'Neill," and it's like, "No, he's
True.
actually hurt." So you
Yeah,
never
we'll
know.
see. Yeah, you do never know. But this one seems like it's not supposed to be a big deal, but you never know. um, and then sorry, I thought someone asked about another injury. I'm not seeing it in here. But yeah, those are those ones to be looking out for right now. Okay, last thing real quick. Are you concerned about the defense at all? I still think it's an improved dynamic defense. I think the errors lately have been really weird. And I think that's why errors are not a great barometer for how good a defense is, because you can make one mistake during a game that's an error, but make an all, like Michael Ciani in that same, like, made an error, but Michael Ciani made multiple big plays. Mason Wimbledon made multiple big plays. I think the defense is vastly improved from last year. It's hitting a little bit of a rough stretch right now, but they seem like really weird mental errors, which could continue throughout the year. So they got to nip it in the butt. But I don't think this defense is just bad because they made errors in 11 straight games now. How are you feeling about the defense?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's like Siani and Wynn have been great. Arenado was really good to start the year. I want to look at his Savant page in a second, but like I don't know how his numbers have been. He's like looked like a platinum glover for the first like month and a half, and recently has made some really weird plays. I think Gorman's looked better. Goldie's looked kind of weird too. Herrera's been better behind the plate. He's threw out or no, that was Pajes who threw out a runner today.
Yeah.
But like just
And
in general, the catching defense has been fine.
Nolan's 75th percentile now. It's above average. So he's not
Oh,
elite anymore, but he's still
okay,
good.
yeah. And like Newt Barr's been made a great catch the other night. Donovan's been pretty good. So I mean the errors are weird. I don't know why they're happening. Hopefully they can iron that out. But like overall, it's much better than like having Jordan Walker be the worst fielder in the world in right, and like having Burleson out there every day. Arenado have a career worst season. Gorman's still improving. DeYoung or whoever you want at shortstop. Motter. So yeah, get Crawford out of here. But other than that, I think we're looking pretty okay.
Yeah, Jeremiah makes a good point. It feels like the Airs have been leading to runs lately, which
Yeah,
I think is part of the reason we notice them more. Is it's like Air run scores. It's like that doesn't always happen, but right now it has been. So like they really do need to nip it because it's they're Michael Ciani saving a run here, but then they're giving away a run here. So it comes out as last year they weren't saving runs, so they're just giving away runs. Now it's kind of neutral when they're giving up runs, they're saving runs in other places, but you can gain an edge instead of just kind of canceling it out if you stop making these dumb errors. So um again, I've seen some chats in here too about they need to go out and acquire a starter. I do think again that's one thing Mo has shown he will do is that if they're in contention at the deadline, he's not afraid to go out get the Jose Quintana, Jay Happ, John Lester, or Jordan Montgomery. Like they make those moves. Jake Westbrook, way back when, like you could just name off all these starters that they acquire at deadline. So, but yeah, we'll have to see if they're in that space at that point. Andrew and I are both sick coming into this today, so I think we've probably as maybe a little bit more of a hodgepodge episode, but hopefully we got our points across here today. Hopefully we're both feeling better soon. We get Sandy back by Wednesday too. We can talk about this Red series and maybe if there's specific topics, maybe like trade targets and stuff, because we're starting to get to that point where we start looking ahead at like here's some types of guys that can maybe look at. Let us know if there's some things you want us to chat through. Hoping to get some guests on here soon. Again, we got away from that a little bit just because our schedules are crazy, but get some of the writers back on our prospects, but should be fun. Exciting to watch the team right now. Andrew, any last thoughts you've got?
yeah. I just hope we can keep playing winning baseball. I don't want to jinx anything. I just won't speak because that's what happens when I speak. I
If
scared
you
away
don't,
Shota Imanaga though by
yeah,
wearing all black to the game. I tried to go.
there you go.
They got rained
Yeah,
out, and they were like, "You know what? He's not pitching this week." I was like, "Okay, I don't know."
yeah.
He's scared,
I do
but
believe part of Andrew's hesitancy to believe in the team is that he doesn't want to jinx them because a lot
yeah.
there's just been some takes he had this offseason that have gone very poorly. And so, hey, I
So can I
respect
change
it.
my bold predictions to like Sonny Gray gets Tommy John surgery, Jordan Walker
no,
never gets
no,
called back
no,
up,
because
and
I don't want to reverse jinx it where now
okay,
those things are gonna happen.
okay.
So, oh gosh, we'll see. Um, anyways, thanks for joining us again. If this is your first episode, or you've been watching this for a while and you're interested in our Cardinals content, subscribe. Got some awesome stuff. We got a cool Tyler O'Neill video that just came out, so we worked really hard on that. Hopefully, you enjoyed that and let us know what you thought of it. And yeah, we're excited to see how this Red series go, and we'll see you guys in our next episode.